Good afternoon, and thanks for streaming with us. I'm Whit Johnson here in New York with the latest on President Trump. And breaking just minutes ago, ABC News has confirmed that 2 White House resident staff members tested positive for COVID-19. That was a few weeks ago. However, those employees did not come into direct contact with President Trump or the First Lady. A White House spokesman did not comment on that report, but did say that the White House takes any positive case seriously. Now, all of this comes just after the president's doctors at Walter Reed told reporters the president is getting better, but did receive oxygen on Friday. Listen.
The president has continued to improve. As with any illness, there are frequent ups and downs over the course, particularly when a patient is being so closely watched 24 hours a day.
Okay, now what you didn't hear there was specifically the reference to the oxygen levels. What the doctor said, Dr. Sean Conley, who is President Trump's physician there at the White House, he said that President Trump, he had a drop in oxygen levels yesterday to 93%. The day before, it was 94%. So he outlined 2 separate episodes. Now, that admission that the president did, in fact, receive oxygen is a complete reversal from what his doctor said just yesterday. So he was trying to clarify today, and here's that explanation.
I was trying to reflect the upbeat attitude that the team, the president, that his course of illness has had. I didn't want to give any information that might steer the course of illness in another direction.
Steer the course of illness in another direction. A lot of people trying to make sense of what the doctor actually meant by that. Joining us now with more on this is Rachel Scott. Rachel, our White House correspondent, who's been right out there outside Walter Reed Medical Center. Rachel, what is the takeaway? What are we actually able to get in terms of facts from the press conference today? Did it clear things up?
It definitely did clear some things up, but there are some things that are still left unanswered. And one of those things is whether or not the president received an oxygen supplement just yesterday. You know, yesterday when the president's doctors addressed the White House press corps, reporters left with more questions than answers. They could not answer basic questions on how high the president's fever was when he had one, whether or not the president had been given that supplemental oxygen on Friday before he got here to Walter Reed Medical Center, or even when the president was expected to be discharged. Today, we saw a lot of cleanup, even overnight. The White House physician had to clean up some of his comments. He suggested that the president tested positive earlier than he did. They had to put out a statement correcting that. So today was about clarifying the facts, but still lots of answers here. And I think a lot of people are struck by what the White House physician said that you just played there, that he didn't want to kind of dip away from the upbeat attitude. The fact is that the American people want to know what is going on with the president of the United States. They're looking to the medical experts and the president's doctors for that information. And really, there has been conflicting messages from the White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, who said that the next 48 hours would be critical, that the president's symptoms were concerning. And then what we heard from the White House's medical doctors yesterday saying that the president was doing well and is on the road to recovery. Bottom line here, the president could be discharged as early as tomorrow. We're still trying to get answers on whether or not the president was administered oxygen supplements just yesterday. And even out here, there's a growing number of Trump supporters outside. You can hear some of the horns honking behind me, some of the cheers chanting, "Pray for our president." Everyone is wishing the president well wishes, but also looking for the facts right now. They are absolutely critical, Whit.
Yeah, exactly, because most Americans don't really understand the difference between 94%, 93% oxygen saturation and what all of that would mean. And they could certainly reflect an upbeat attitude that the president is doing well while also delivering those facts. But I wanted to transition a little bit because we got the new information about some people who work at the White House now confirmed that they tested positive for COVID-19. And this, of course, comes as we were hearing that a number of people within the president's inner circle are also testing positive. What can you tell us about the latest developments on that?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Those people were not in contact, we're told, with the president or first lady. But bottom line here, there is a growing list of people that have tested positive, senior advisors to the president, as well as guests from that Rose Garden ceremony where the president announced his Supreme Court pick. There are 8 people that have now tested positive who attended that ceremony, and they were sitting in the first 4 rows, and many of them were not wearing a face mask, including former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who is an ABC News contributor. News was revealed that he tested positive. He has now checked himself into the hospital as a precautionary measure. Now, Christie is interesting because Christie was also in the debate prep with the President of the United States, as well as alongside several other key advisors. We are told 5 out of the 9 people that were in that debate prep have now tested positive for the virus. Christie told ABC News that no one there was wearing a face mask. The ripple effects are continuing to come. And just a note here, this is all playing out in the backdrop of the election cycle and the backdrop of the campaign. Election is now just 30 days away, and the RNC chairwoman and the president's campaign manager also have the virus with.
All right, Rachel Scott for us again outside Walter Reed. And what you might not be able to see in the picture, but what Rachel was telling us off camera, the noise that you're hearing there are a number of President Trump supporters there. You can see him who have gathered there to show their support for the president, who again is recovering from COVID-19. So you hear the horns and you see the people out there offering their support. I do want to transition and bring in our Dr. Todd Ellerin, who's an ABC News contributor and also an infectious disease expert who has been treating COVID patients throughout this crisis. Dr. Ellerin, it's great to have you. There was another big headline today that we learned about that Dr. Conley pointed out, the fact that the president's oxygen levels dropped twice. They then made the decision to give him dexamethasone, which is a steroid that we've heard quite a bit about that has shown some promise in early studies. What can you tell us about that treatment and how it's being used with the president?
So again, we're dealing with a very mysterious virus, and the way it affects individuals, everyone's different. The outcomes are unpredictable. But one thing we've shown is that early on, you have a virologic phase where you get infected and you have increasing amounts of virus in your body. Then after roughly a week, it transitions where the viral load comes down, and then you get your immune system gets sort of supercharged. And you want your immune system to balance to fight the virus, but you don't want to have too much immune system where you get an immune storm. So where the dexamethasone really helps is when you're in that immune storm part of the illness. And what happens is the dexamethasone can quiet the immune system, okay? The issue is what the recovery trial from the UK showed was that there was a survival benefit in those patients who were on oxygen or who were mechanically ventilated in the intensive care unit. But interestingly, if you gave the steroids too early, there was actually a trend towards increased mortality. Now, that wasn't statistically significant, but what it tells us is there's a fine balance between the risks and the benefits of giving dexamethasone.
And it's interesting you pointed that out too early, because right now, first we heard President Trump was taking this monoclonal antibody cocktail. Then he was given remdesivir, another dose of remdesivir, now the steroids. So these are 3 separate treatments that we've been hearing about. How common is it, though, for a patient to receive all 3 of them at once and so early in the illness?
Right. So I would say remdesivir is part of the standard of care, at least in the United States. And we're thinking that because it has antiviral activity, the earlier the better. As far as dexamethasone is concerned, it also has become a standard of care around the world for those with more severe illness, meaning patients who are requiring increasing amount of oxygen or those who are in the intensive care unit. As far as that monoclonal cocktail, that is definitely not part of the standard of care yet. That is more experimental, and it's something that you have to give as compassionate use. So this would be something that most patients in the United States or around the world are not receiving yet. Remember, it's only been tested on a few hundred people. So we're waiting to see. So far, the early evidence is promising, but we still need more data to prove its effectiveness and safety.
Dr. Ellerin, stand by for just a moment, because there is another part of this press conference that we wanted to play from President Trump's doctor. Let's listen.
The president was doing well, with only mild symptoms, and his oxygen was in the high 90s. Late Friday morning, when I returned to the bedside, the president had a high fever, and his oxygen saturation was transiently dipping below 94%. Given these 2 developments, I was concerned for possible rapid progression of the illness. I recommended the president we try some supplemental oxygen, see how he'd respond. He was fairly adamant that he didn't need it. He was not short of breath. He was tired, had the fever, and that was about it. And after about a minute, on only 2 liters, his saturation levels were back over 95%. Stayed on that for about an hour, maybe, and it was off and gone.
So, Dr. Ellerin, some of this contradicts what we heard yesterday from the doctor, but you're an infectious disease expert. I'm not going to get into that with you. What I'd like to just clarify here is exactly what that means. The American people are out there hearing these numbers, 93%, 94%. What does that mean in terms of the president's health?
Right. So there's no question that we know that COVID-19 can affect many different parts of the body, but the lung is a key one. And you really want your O2 saturation to be high, as close to 100% as possible. But, you know, if you have a transient dip in your oxygen saturation and then it comes up, or if you're on a small amount of oxygen supplementation and you stay stable and then it starts to decrease where you don't need as much oxygen supplement and the O2 levels go up, you know, those are good signs. Again, the question of whether or not to initiate dexamethasone in this case is a tough call. I have a feeling if you polled 10 different specialists, you may get a variety of answers. It's a judgment call. You have to weigh the risks and the benefits. You know, I wish that we didn't see from the clinical trials that those patients who didn't require oxygen, where you gave the dexamethasone, there was a trend to increased mortality, so that's a problem. But I think you do want to be aggressive. One thing to point out, Whit, he was given antibodies. That's important because remember, naturally our body does lead to an immune response, but that often takes 7 to 14 days. By giving these monoclonal antibodies, you're giving it immediately. That's important because dexamethasone, these steroids, can reduce your immune response. So at least he got that. I think if he's off oxygen right now, that's good news for him.
Final question, Dr. Ellerin, before I let you go. We've been showing video of the president out there. He sent a message to the people yesterday. We've seen pictures of him signing some papers, doing some things around Walter Reed. If he's your patient right now, and you've treated many COVID patients, how are you feeling? How confident are you?
All right, so here's the good news. Remember, most patients with COVID don't require hospitalization. And even most patients who require hospitalization end up walking out of the hospital. I'm really hopeful that President Trump is going to be one of those people. But remember, we've seen this virus too many times be wily in the sense that one day you can be stable and the next day you can be fighting for your life. So it's still too premature to say.
All right, Dr. Todd Ellerin for us. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Again, we are having all of the latest information. We're following the developments right there from Walter Reed. We'll have updates throughout the course of the day on abcnews.com and breaking news alerts on our ABC News app. We'll have a full wrap-up tonight on ABC News World News Tonight with Tom Yamas. For now, I'm Whit Johnson in New York. Have a good afternoon.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.